Something unusual is happening in the global music industry, and it's making executives, labels, and fans uncomfortable in equal measure. A K-pop artist is dominating Western charts in ways that were never supposed to happen, breaking barriers that the industry quietly insisted were permanent. This isn't a viral fluke or a lucky crossover moment. This is about power, timing, and an idol who stepped outside the system at the exact moment it stopped serving her. Rosé of Blackpink didn't just release a successful solo project. She forced the industry to confront a question it's avoided for years. What happens when a K-pop idol refuses to wait for permission? Her song APT didn't just chart well. It shattered expectations, earning major Grammy nominations and pushing her debut album Rosé to historic positions on the Billboard 200. For a K-pop female soloist, this level of Western recognition wasn't just rare, it was considered nearly impossible without heavy corporate machinery behind it. And yet, Rosé achieved it by stepping away from the very system that built her. That contradiction is where the real story begins. What makes this moment so shocking is the silence that came before it. Just 3 years earlier, Rosé released her first solo work, set impressive records, and then disappeared completely from the solo conversation. No follow-ups, no momentum, no visible push. In an industry where constant visibility is survival, silence is usually interpreted as failure, conflict, or being quietly sidelined. Fans speculated. Industry watchers moved on. Behind closed doors, assumptions were made about her limits as a solo artist. But this wasn't a pause caused by weakness. It was the calm before a calculated break from expectations. Rosé wasn't chasing relevance. She was redefining when and how it arrives. Her return wasn't designed to fit the traditional K-pop rollout cycle or to please executives obsessed with speed and numbers. It was designed to hit when she could no longer be ignored. By the end of this story, it becomes clear why this moment couldn't have happened earlier, and why waiting was the most dangerous move she could make. If you want to understand how idols break free, why companies lose control, and what really happens when patience runs out, make sure you follow the channel and stay with this story, because this is only the beginning. To understand why Rosé's rise feels disruptive, you have to go back to the beginning, long before chart positions or Grammy conversations ever existed. Before the spotlight, before the branding, before the expectations, Rosé was just a teenager growing up far from Seoul, never once imagining herself inside the rigid machinery of K-pop. Music wasn't a career plan. It was something intimate, something safe, something that lived quietly between a piano at home and a church choir. There was no strategy, no ambition to conquer an industry that thrives on control. That illusion shattered the moment she stepped into an audition room in Sydney in 2012. Out of hundreds of hopefuls, she ranked first, and within weeks her entire life was dismantled and rebuilt. At 15 years old, she left school, left her family, and moved alone to South Korea, entering a system designed to reshape people before they're old enough to resist it. Everything happened too fast for reflection. Training schedules replaced childhood. Evaluation rooms replaced bedrooms. The promise of debut came with an unspoken condition. Survival meant obedience. Even inside YG Entertainment, Rosé's position was never secure. She trained for years without guarantees, watching others rise and fall, knowing that talent alone rarely decides who wins. When Blackpink was finally announced, she was revealed last, just weeks before debut. Not first, not central, not framed as the future of the group. That placement wasn't accidental. It reflected internal priorities and silent rankings that idols learn to read without being told. Within the group, roles were quickly defined. Some members were marketed as power players, others as visual icons or performance weapons. Rosé became the voice, essential but underestimated. In an industry obsessed with spectacle, vocals are respected but rarely centered. From the start, she was taught to wait, to support, to fit into a structure that never promised her the spotlight. That quiet positioning planted the pressure that would follow her for years, shaping the silence before her breakthrough. As Blackpink's global influence exploded, the imbalance within the group became impossible to ignore. While the brand grew stronger, individual identities were carefully controlled, and solo ambitions were released on a schedule that reflected corporate priorities, not artistic readiness. When the first solo debut arrived, it wasn't Rosé. That delay sent a clear message inside the fandom and the industry. She was valuable, but not urgent. In K-pop, urgency defines destiny. When her solo debut finally came in 2021, the results were impressive on paper. Strong sales, global records, historic firsts for a Korean female soloist. Yet something was missing. The charts told one story, but the impact told another. It wasn't the defining moment everyone expected. Instead of launching her into a new tier, it exposed a deeper issue. Rosé had succeeded, but she hadn't arrived. The system had given her a release, not an identity. What followed was the most dangerous thing an idol can do: disappear. For 3 years there were no solo projects, no explanations, and no reassurance. In an industry that punishes absence, silence becomes a liability. Rumors grew. Fans blamed management. Others quietly assumed her window had closed. But behind the scenes, something far more unsettling for the industry was happening. For the first time in her career, Rosé wasn't being shaped. She was searching. The pressure during those years wasn't public, but it was intense. Without constant validation, idols are forced to confront the question they're trained to avoid: who are you without the system? Rosé spent those years writing, experimenting, failing, and doubting, without the safety net of guaranteed releases. No one was directing her image. No one was defining her sound. That freedom came with confusion, and confusion came with risk. The silence wasn't inactivity, it was resistance. And when the industry realized she wasn't waiting anymore, it was already too late to stop what was coming. The real shift didn't happen on a stage or in a studio. It happened quietly, through contracts and decisions that never trend but change everything. When Blackpink renewed their group activities but declined to renew individual solo contracts, it sent a shockwave through the industry. This wasn't rebellion, it was calculation. For Rosé, it marked the first time she had legal control over her own direction. And that kind of freedom is rare for idols who've spent their entire careers being managed, monitored, and restricted. Stepping outside the company that built her came with risk. No established solo pipeline, no guaranteed promotions, no safety net, but instead of cutting ties completely, Rosé chose a strategic middle ground. She aligned with familiar creative forces while removing corporate oversight that had slowed her growth. That balance gave her space to rebuild herself without burning bridges, a move that signaled maturity rather than defiance. Then came the Western pivot. Signing with a major U.S. label wasn't about validation, it was positioning. Rosé wasn't asking to be introduced as a K-pop export. She was placing herself directly into the global pop ecosystem, where competition is brutal and excuses don't exist. There are no protected categories, no cultural cushioning. You either connect or you disappear. During this phase, the pressure intensified. Without a system dictating deadlines or concepts, every decision rested on her shoulders. She wrote relentlessly, questioned herself constantly, and faced creative isolation most idols never experience. The industry thrives on control because control reduces uncertainty. Rosé chose uncertainty anyway. By the time her new music was ready, it wasn't designed to fit expectations. It was designed to expose them. And when the first notes reached the public, it became clear that this wasn't a comeback. It was a confrontation. When Rosé finally stepped back into the spotlight, the industry had no choice but to confront what it was witnessing. This was not a carefully manufactured comeback engineered by a powerful company machine. This was the result of an idol reclaiming control after years of being underestimated, delayed, and quietly sidelined. The success that followed wasn't just measured in streams, chart positions, or award nominations. It was measured in disruption. Her music didn't ask to be accepted by Western audiences as a K-pop exception. It demanded to be judged on the same level as everyone else. And it was. What made this moment unsettling for the industry was how cleanly it shattered long-held assumptions. For decades, idols were taught that patience was survival and silence was obedience. Rosé proved that silence could be strategy. The years without releases weren't a collapse. They were a rebuilding phase that happened away from public scrutiny, away from corporate pressure, and away from expectations she never agreed to carry. When she returned, she wasn't trying to prove she deserved success. She was showing that she had already earned it. This wasn't just about breaking records. It was about breaking dependency. By stepping outside traditional solo management and redefining her position globally, Rosé exposed a truth the industry rarely admits: control limits growth. Her story reframed what power looks like for idols who are told to stay grateful, stay quiet, and stay in line. She didn't rebel loudly. She simply moved forward without waiting. And that is why her moment matters far beyond her own career. Because once an artist shows that independence doesn't mean disappearance, the system loses its grip. Others will follow. Others will question. Others will stop waiting. If this story changed how you see K-pop, now is your moment too. Like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and tell me which part of this journey stayed with you. And don't forget to subscribe, because this industry is full of hidden battles, and the next story is already unfolding.